Hello, welcome everyone to another Google for Education product training series. We're going to get started right away. Today's topic is become a dynamic host with new Meet controls. We've got a bit.ly here for you, and we'll make sure that's in the chat for you as well. It's bit.ly/Meet host. That's going to be repeated in the top right corner of all the slides today. If you're joining a little bit later or have to get reconnected, that'll be there for you. There's also a great link in the top right corner to the product training series website to access any of the previous sessions that have occurred and to see what's on the schedule for upcoming sessions. So make sure you check that out as well. And welcome, my name's Tom Woods. I'm our Google for Education training lead here at Amplified IT. And if you're not familiar with us here at Amplified IT, we're a CDW company. We're also a premier partner of Google's, and we work with K-12 schools, school districts, higher education institutions in North America around the technical and administrative use of Google for Education from a educational best practices perspective, working with the IT departments, making sure that you're using it for good privacy, good security, good support of student success from an admin console and technical settings perspective. And we have all sorts of different products and services, from our Google for Education audit service to our software as a service solutions like Little Sys and our labs tools, migration support, and everything in between. Great, so today's agenda, we're going to take a look at some of the new host controls features that are in Google Meet. We'll go through those and just make sure you're aware of where those features are, what they do for yourselves during meetings, or what they can do for your teachers during Google Meets with the students. And then we'll take a look at some of the admin level controls in the admin console for dealing with those for Google Meet as well. All right, so the new host controls. First of all, we have finally something around adding extra people, extra teachers, extra hosts to the meeting that can actually use a lot of these elevated features that would come with something like the Teaching and Learning Upgrade solution or the Workspace for Education Plus solution. So having co-hosts or multiple moderators, whichever term you want to use, is super helpful. We've got a great link there to the blog post release from Google on that. We're going to jump right over to a live Meet environment here, and we'll take a look at this. So when it comes to adding a co-host, if we look at the people list, bringing that up from the bottom right corner, I've got one of my other accounts connected into here, so the name is the same, but these are two separate people. This could be another teacher, educational assistant, someone that's helping you. This could be a coworker that needs to help host the internal meeting. We can grant them host controls. That's going to pop up on their screen on the other side and let them know that they've been granted that. That's going to give them access to the host controls here and sort of the quick menu to turn off students or participants from being able to share their screen, from temporarily being able to send chat messages, things like that. We can bring up all the host settings through that link there, or we can go down here to the host controls button in the bottom right corner to see the full page as well. We can turn off the screen and chat messages. We can turn off host management. We're going to get a little warning there from Google, recognizing that this is going to let people remove others from the Google Meet. They're going to be able to mute each other selectively. They're going to be able to turn on their mic or camera or screen share when they like. They're going to be able to send chat messages. If this was a meeting of teachers and adults and staff members, then hey, that's maybe great. Maybe not what you would want in a student situation, but Google's giving us a nice warning there that that's what that settings toggle is going to do. So a co-host could turn this off or choose not to. Co-host also has access to turn off quick access, and that's been a key setting that's been around for a while now. That's your kind of first line of defense of any external people coming into your meeting, bombing your meeting, even internal to your own Google Workspace for Education domain, students from other schools in your district, students that are not in your class getting a hold of the meeting code. And while a teacher is teaching or steps away from the webcam for a minute while students are working, jumping into that. So turning off quick access, people are going to have to knock on the door and ask to join unless they were invited to the meeting directly or on the calendar invite, etc. So a co-host is going to be able to have access to turning off that quick access as well. So that's it. That's as simple as it is. I can also revoke or remove those host controls. So if we're done with the co-teaching, co-presenting part of the session, we could remove those host controls from that person. Adding co-hosts gives all those features, but the original host, myself up here, the original host, still retains the ultimate control over this Google Meet. If we're recording using our enhanced features with Plus and Teaching and Learning, that recording is going to go to my Google Drive. You're not passing off those responsibilities or abilities, so the original host is still going to have all those for the meeting. What we've got coming up soon on the roadmap here from Google is an automated ability that if you're adding teachers in as co-teachers to your Google Classroom class, when they jump into the Google Meet session that is built from that Classroom class, when we generate a Google Classroom Meet URL from within the Classroom class, they will automatically enter into that Google Meet already marked as co-hosts. So just that intelligence of recognizing that 2 or 3 co-teachers on that classroom are going to be co-hosts automatically in the Google Meet, which makes a lot of sense. The original creator of the classroom, the original teacher of the classroom will still retain that original host ability, to revoke that, to have the recording and things like that. But that's a really great integration that is coming soon, hopefully before the end of the year here, so that just happens automatically and transparently for any co-teachers in classroom. All right, so we've been through all of these, but let's go back and just make sure we cover them all. So with those host controls, and we'll go back here to them here, we mentioned turning off their ability to share their screen, sending chat messages. We mentioned quick access, which is a key one that we can turn off. We can view all host settings, and that's going to bring up a larger panel here along with our audio video settings. One of the other features that this allows is ending meeting for all. We've covered the rest of these, including turning off quick access. But if I were to end this meeting, instead of just hitting leave call and it instantly closing like things used to do, if I'm the original host or if I'm a co-host, you're going to see an option to end the call for everyone. All right, and we can just leave the call ourselves, but the end call for everyone is key. And one thing I really like that Google's done here, I'll make this a little bit larger, is on this pop-up window, they've reminded us, hey, if you don't turn off quick access and it was previously on, students will be able to reconnect using that Meet join code and be able to be in here without the teacher or without the original host or the owner of the Google Meet. So a really great reminder right up in front, and a reminder here in the text that, hey, we should turn off quick access if we're going to end the call for everyone. That shuts the door. Students are going to be in the waiting room. They're not going to be able to enter until the host or co-host come back into this Google Meet. So that's end call for all, and that's something that co-hosts are going to be granted as well when you give them the co-host ability. Okay, let's take a look at the admin controls here. So we're going to flip over to the admin console. We got some questions here as well. Hopefully I did zoom my screen a little bit more there. I will make sure I do that for folks. Dee's asking, we have a few students that have saved a code from a couple years ago and are still getting into a Meet. What's the easiest way to end Meet codes from previous classes taught? We're going to show you a way to do that coming up here in a second. So hold on for that, Dee, and we'll show you how to do that. Crystal's asking, what if we don't use Google Classroom? Can we manually assign co-hosts? Crystal, that's a great question. If we're talking outside of Google Classroom, if we just went to meet.google.com and started a Google Meet, if you're generating them from Google Calendar, people have to be live in the Meet session to be deemed a co-host. So we can't yet pre-plan that from Google Calendar. Maybe that's a great feature request to put in, or maybe Google's thinking of that. But right now, users have to be here on the people list for us to be able to grant them host control. And then the only automation we're going to gain shortly is that integration with the Google Classroom co-teachers. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. Hannah was asking, we did mention this, with co-hosts and multiple co-hosts being enabled, which host gets the recording? There's still the original meeting host. You'll notice when we do this that this person here is the meeting host, and there's no options to take that away. This is me, I'm connected. I can deem as many co-hosts as I want, but I am the owner of this Google Meet session. The recording will always default to go to my Google Drive. So that doesn't change, and that's going to stay the same. Hopefully that answers that for you as well. Okay, great. We're going to jump over to the admin console, and we'll take a look at some admin controls. So we've got a few key pieces here. Enabling host control by default, domain and user access, some new areas that are going to determine how our users can connect to Google Meets and who can connect to our Google Meets. And then an end for all piece for Google Meets from the admin console, from an administrative top-down level to end meetings for all. We just saw here how we can do that from within the meeting itself. But what if you're the super admin or you're someone in the IT department looking to do that? So let's jump over here to the admin console. I will make this a little bit larger again. We're going to go to the core apps over on the side under apps. So we're going to go to the Google Workspace core apps list here. And of course, we're going to go down to Google Meet. And when we're on the Google Meet page, if we scroll down, there are some new Meet safety settings here in this card or this box here. So we're going to click on that. And let's do it in the order of the slide here, just to keep this straightforward. So host control is down here at the bottom, or in this case, it's called host management. So what we're doing here is on something, let's say like a student OU, we want students to enter and go into a video call with the host management turned on. This probably is something you may want to set from the root down ideally, but they're going to go in and those host management features are going to be turned on. In other words, they won't be able to chat, they won't be able to share their screen until those are enabled. So it's something to think about there. You can kind of have this as a default. The owner of the Google Meet session that's in there actually running it ultimately still has the control to turn on and off what they like. But we're talking about a default starting point that we can enforce on a per OU basis here in the Google Meet settings. Next, we have one that we'll cover. It's not on the slide, but it's right here. Again, a default for quick access to be on or quick access to be off when users start a Google Meet session. So if we want to maybe set our staff OU for all our teachers that when they join and start a Google Meet session, that quick access is off immediately by default, that will make students have to wait for that host or that teacher to be come on to the Google Meet session before they can enter. We can set that as a top-down default here as well. Last two here have to do with the domain and user access, what sessions our users can join, etc. So first one here at the top is, can external people from outside of our Workspace for Education account or our organization connect to our Google Meet sessions created by these users? So most likely we're going to be looking at this from a staff perspective. If our teachers or staff initiate a Google Meet session, who from the external outside world is able to connect to it? So we can say things all the way from only users in our organization, or obviously voice dial-in access if needed. We can say, well, we'll allow anyone externally from the world to join this Google Meet session, but they have to be signed in with a Google account. So we're effectively turning off that ability for anonymous connection to Google Meet, where you just have to type in a name and you're not signed in with an email address and a Google account. The benefit of having people sign in or must sign in with a Google account are the logs, the Meet logs, the things in the investigation tool, the logs under reports in the admin console. The Meet quality tool are going to show you those external email addresses. So if we need to see those, must see those, then we want to make sure they are signing in. Third option would be all users, just kind of open season here. Anyone can connect. They don't have to be signed in with a Google account. They can connect in that anonymous name-only fashion, and that's what we're going to get. The access box here below is then the opposite of what we'd be thinking there. Which meetings can our staff and students join external to our organization? So we can lock this down sort of in that walled garden sort of approach, like we talk about a lot for Drive and Gmail, and say our students maybe can only connect to Meets created within our Workspace for Education organization here. Now, if you have neighboring districts and some crossover of classes, that may not be the best setting for you because you're going to be preventing them from maybe connecting to that afternoon high school level auto shop class that they have to go down the street for. That's not provided at your school or district, with a neighboring district or other institution. So you'd want to think about that. The middle ground here is they can connect to Google Meets, but we don't want them connecting to just public consumer-based ones. It has to be another workspace organization. That could be business, that could be education, but it's not going to be based off of someone's gmail.com consumer account who's initiating that Google Meet. And then, of course, wide open any meetings. Maybe that's an appropriate setting for staff, depending on who they need to communicate with during their work and their job. But for a student OU, you'd certainly probably be looking at that closed-in walled garden within our organization only, or that only ones created in an official workspace managed workspace domain. All right. The last piece here, and to probably answer Dee's question, we do have an ability now from a top-level admin console perspective to end meetings for all. This is a tool that you get with Workspace for Education Standard or Workspace for Education Plus editions that contain the investigation tool and all the security features. So it's not something that Teaching and Learning Upgrade would have, but if we have Standard or Plus, we would have this given the investigation tool. So we're going to jump back over here and we're going to open up the investigation tool under security. And real quick, we can't do a full demonstration of what the investigation tool is. That's been on a lot of other sessions and some upcoming sessions. But we can go down here to do a search in the Meet log events. And we'll just add a condition that it's a Google Meet and not a soon to retire Classic Hangouts. We're going to do a search just so we get some results here on the list. And you can see here we've got all these Google Meet sessions that have happened, possibly currently happening. These could be those open meeting codes that were self-generated or generated through Google Calendar, and quick access is not turned off. And we hear, like Dee said, that students are still connecting to them. Simple as identifying the one that you need, maybe via the code most likely, and through the actions menu, we can, among other things with the users, end meeting for all. So we can select to end this meeting for all. We have justification turned on for the admin console logs, so I'll just put something in there. And then that's going to start, and if we go down to the bottom of the page here, we can see working through that and a confirmation that the meeting was successfully ended. Now, one other thing we can say here, and I think it was maybe up on the screen, is that this automatically turns off quick access. Because, of course, what's the sense of ending the meeting and possibly forcing people out of the Google Meet if they're in it live right now? If we don't turn off the quick access, those students or those bad actors are just going to connect to that seconds later again. So this automatically ends it, ejects everyone from the meeting, and turns off quick access so that they will not be able to connect to that meeting until the original moderator or owner of that meeting connects and is there, like the teacher. So that's what that's going to do for you. Great. Ralph's got a question. Is there a whitelist option for Meet domains to access, say, a sister school? No, there isn't right now, Ralph. I know we've got a Google Classroom and a Google Drive domain allow list, and there hasn't been such a thing yet for those settings in Google Meet that we were just looking at. Again, great feature request. Maybe it's in the plans, but I can see what you're saying. If we could do this, but with some sort of approved list of domains for either one of these directions, that would be a great thing. So we'll take that of note. We'll make sure Google takes that of notice and feedback, and maybe that's in the works. Okay, great. We're going to wrap up. We'll leave it here for a second. If there's other questions, now is the time to get them in to our question moderators here. But just a reminder, back to the product training series website. The link here is at the top and on this page. If you're looking for the recording of this session, of Tuesday's session, any of the upcoming sessions, or to see the schedule, you'll find that here on the product training series page. And we're in the September to November 2021. And the older previous versions of these sessions are also listed there as well from back earlier this year and even into last fall. So if you want to check out any of those those are there for you as well. Michelle's got a question. If we turn off quick access at a district level, do the hosts have the option to turn it on within their meet? Yes, it's a default, but it's not a hard enforcement. It's just a default starting point when that meet is spun up and when people enter it. Your host, your original host, owner of the meet, always has the options to flip any of those settings on and off, Michelle. So again, just talking about a default initial setting for that. Great question. Okay, not seeing any other questions here. Great. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating and being here with us today. If you're watching this recording a little bit later, thank you. Check out the remaining sessions on the schedule coming up, and please sign up for those. Thanks very much, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.